Somewhere in the last minute, while you were deciding what to watch, a human being died because an animal attacked them. Not a lion, not a shark, not a snake. And it will happen again in the next minute, and the minute after that, around 600,000 times this year. The animal responsible weighs about 2.5 milligrams. That is less than a raindrop. You can kill one with a lazy slap and forget it in 4 seconds. And it has killed more human beings than every predator we have ever been afraid of, combined by a margin so wide the comparison stops meaning anything. We have thrown poison, money, and 100 years of science at it. We have not won. This is the story of why we cannot win. In the last video, we looked at an animal that could kill you anytime it wanted and chooses not to. This is the exact opposite of that. The orca is 6 tons of intelligence and restraint. This thing is a speck. It has no strategy, no plan, and no concept that you exist as a person. It has a brain you could lose in a full stop. And it has killed more of us than orcas, sharks, lions, tigers, bears, wolves, and crocodiles put together. Not by a little, but by thousands to one. So why can't we kill the deadliest animal on Earth? It is not that we have not tried. It is that the thing we are actually fighting is not the animal you think it is. And once you see what is really doing the killing, the whole story turns inside out. There are 4 layers here. Let us go. Start with the scale, because the numbers do not feel real when you first hear them. Sharks kill around 10 people a year, worldwide, all species, everywhere. Wolves, a handful. Lions, somewhere near 200. Orcas, as we established last time, 0. Now the mosquito. Malaria on its own killed roughly 600,000 people last year, and mosquitoes carry far more than malaria. Dengue, yellow fever, Zika, chikungunya, West Nile, several kinds of brain swelling with names nobody can pronounce. Put the whole list together and the total sits comfortably around 750,000 human beings every single year. That is a city the size of Seattle, deleted annually by an insect you can crush between 2 fingers. So before we go any further, tell me in the comments what you actually guessed. I want to see the spread on this. When I said the deadliest animal on Earth, what came into your head first? Snake? Hippo? Crocodile? Dog? Some of you knew instantly because this particular fact has been doing the rounds on the internet for years, and if that is you, hold on, because almost nobody knows the second half of it. The half that explains why a species that has been to the moon cannot beat an insect. And I promise you now, the answer is not the mosquito. There is a claim you may have run into that mosquitoes have killed half of every human being who has ever lived. It comes from one historian who put the figure at about 52 billion dead out of the 108 billion people who have ever been born. I am going to be straight with you, because this channel does not do this. Most researchers think that number is far too high, and honestly, it is not something anybody can measure. But even the careful, conservative estimates are staggering. For almost all of our history, across most of the warm half of this planet, a mosquito bite was one of the single most likely ways for a human life to end. That is not folklore. That was simply the world. And it did not just kill people, it moved history around. Malaria hollowed out the Roman countryside for centuries and killed invading armies so reliably that the fevers around the city were treated as a kind of defensive wall. When France tried to dig the Panama Canal, more than 20,000 workers died, most of them of malaria and yellow fever, and the whole project collapsed in bankruptcy and scandal. The Americans only finished that canal after they stopped fighting the jungle and started fighting the insect. Think about the strangeness of that. Empires have been redrawn by an animal that lives about 2 weeks and rarely travels more than a kilometer from the puddle it was born in. So what is really happening when one lands on your arm? She does not bite the way a dog bites. She carries a bundle of 6 needles. 2 of them saw through your skin, 2 hold the opening apart, 1 goes hunting for a blood vessel, and the last one pumps saliva down into you. That saliva is the part that matters. It stops your blood from clotting so that it will flow up a tube narrower than a human hair, and it is also the thing your body reacts to. The itch, the bump, the redness, none of that is damage from the bite. That is your own immune system losing its mind over mosquito spit. And inside that spit is everything this video is actually about. Now here's the part almost everyone gets wrong. Male mosquitoes do not bite. They have no interest in you whatsoever. They drink flower nectar, they live about a week, and they die without ever touching a human being. And even the female is not drinking your blood to feed herself. She lives on nectar too. She needs your blood for exactly one thing, protein, to build her eggs. So every bite you have ever received in your life was not a predator hunting you. It was a mother collecting building material for her children. She is not a hunter at all. She is gathering a resource, and the resource is you, which leaves a question that should genuinely bother you. If she only wants a little protein and then flies away, why is this the deadliest animal on the planet? Because the bite itself is harmless. She takes about 5 microliters of blood. You could be bitten 1,000 times over and still lose less than you would from a decent nosebleed. Nothing she does to your body can kill you, so the mosquito is not killing anybody. And that is because the mosquito has never been the killer. She is the delivery system. The thing that actually kills you is riding inside her, and it is one of the strangest organisms alive. Meet Plasmodium. It is a single-celled parasite, far too small for you to see, and it has achieved something no lion or shark or orca has ever come close to. It has domesticated a hunter. Plasmodium cannot move from person to person on its own, so it uses the mosquito as a flying needle. It breeds in her gut, it migrates up into her salivary glands, and then it waits there until she goes looking for protein. And when she injects her saliva into you to keep your blood from clotting, she injects the parasite along with it. She has no idea. She gains nothing. She is the vehicle, and she is not the one steering. Once it is inside you, it goes straight for your liver and hides there. It multiplies in silence for a week or more, while you feel completely fine, and then it breaks out into your bloodstream and starts invading your red blood cells. Inside each cell, it copies itself over and over until the cell bursts, releasing a new wave that invades more cells. And here is the detail that gives malaria its signature. Those cells burst in synchrony, all of them together on a schedule. The waves of fever and violent shaking that arrive every 2 or 3 days like clockwork are not random at all. That is the rhythm of billions of your own blood cells rupturing on a timetable. If you did not know that the mosquito is only the courier, subscribe, because that is exactly what this channel is for. The moment where the story everyone repeats turns out to be the wrong story. And stay with me, because what this parasite does next genuinely unsettles the people who study it for a living. Plasmodium does not simply use the mosquito. It manipulates both ends of the journey. Infected mosquitoes have been found to bite more often and to keep coming back after you wave them away, which is exactly what a parasite would want from a carrier that needs to find a new host. And it works on you as well. When you are infected, your skin starts producing a different chemical mix, and mosquitoes find that mix more attractive than the one you produce when you are healthy. Sit with that for a second. The parasite changes the way you smell, so that the next mosquito prefers you over the person beside you, so that it can climb back into an insect and start the whole cycle again. You are not being hunted, you are being advertised. Which brings us to how she finds you in the first place, because that equipment is unreasonably good. She picks up the carbon dioxide in your breath from tens of meters away and flies up the gradient towards it. Closer in, she switches to your body heat, the humidity coming off your skin, and the chemistry of your sweat. So the reason one person in a room gets bitten 15 times while everybody else is untouched is completely real. It comes down to how much you breathe out, how warm you run, and which bacteria happen to live on your skin. Some studies point at blood type, some at pregnancy, some at beer. She is not picking at random. She is reading you. So this is the second question, and I already know the comments are going to split straight down the middle. Are you the one who gets eaten alive at every barbecue while everyone around you is completely fine? Or are you the one who never gets bitten and quietly thinks the rest of us are exaggerating? Tell me which one you are, because on the current science, your answer says something genuinely true about your breath, your skin, and the bacteria living on it. And now for the part where we fight back. In the middle of the 20th century, we thought we had already won. We had DDT, an insecticide that killed mosquitoes on contact and went on killing them for months from a single spray on a wall. In 1955, the World Health Organization launched a campaign to wipe malaria off the face of the planet completely, and for a while it genuinely looked achievable. Malaria vanished from the United States. It vanished from most of Europe and from large parts of the Caribbean. Countries that had lived with fever for 2,000 years were suddenly quietly clear of it. For a few years there, it was one of the most successful things our species had ever done. Then look at what happened in Sri Lanka, because the entire story of this fight is contained in that one country. Before the spraying began, they had around 1 million malaria cases a year. The campaign worked so well that by 1963, the whole country recorded 17 cases. 17. So the spraying was scaled back, because who keeps pouring money into a problem that is obviously solved? Within 6 years, they were back over 500,000 cases a year. Not because the plan was wrong, because we stopped at 99%, and the remaining 1% was an animal that lays 200 eggs at a time. And while we were congratulating ourselves, the animal was quietly changing. Insects breed fast, which means they evolve fast, and a spray that kills 99% of them is not a weapon. It is a machine for manufacturing the 1% that survives. Insecticide resistance is now widespread in exactly the places where the fight is hardest. Then the parasite pulled the same trick. Chloroquine was our cheap, brilliant malaria drug for decades until Plasmodium learned to shrug it off entirely. We moved on to artemisinin, and in Southeast Asia and now in parts of Africa, the parasite is starting to resist that one too. We are fighting two separate enemies, and both of them rewrite themselves faster than we can invent new weapons. The other problem is pure arithmetic. There are around 3,500 species of mosquito, and only about 100 of them carry disease to humans, so there is no single target to aim at. And you cannot starve them out either, because a female does not need a swamp to breed. She needs a teaspoon of standing water, a bottle cap, an abandoned tire, the saucer under a plant pot, a blocked gutter, a footprint that filled up with rain. To take away her nursery, you would have to remove every scrap of still water on the surface of the earth, everywhere, for weeks, all at the same time. And yet, here is the exception, and it is the most important thing in this video. If you live in Europe, or North America, or Japan, or Australia, malaria simply is not part of your life. But look closely at why, because it is not what people assume. We did not kill the mosquitoes. They are still here. They are in your garden right now, biting you all summer long, and several of the species living in Britain and the United States are perfectly capable of carrying malaria. They are just not carrying it. The insect stayed exactly where it was. The disease is what left. And that is the whole idea, right there. We never beat the animal. We broke the chain. The parasite needs a mosquito to bite an infected person, survive inside her, and then be injected into a healthy one. And if you interrupt that loop at any point, the entire thing collapses. So we drained the marshes, we put glass and screens in our windows, we got rich enough to sleep indoors, and we treated sick people quickly enough that there was nobody left for a mosquito to pick it up from. Which means malaria was never really a jungle disease. It is a poverty disease, and it survives precisely where that chain is cheapest to keep intact. So what is actually working today? The single biggest lifesaver of the last 20 years is almost embarrassingly low technology. A net over a bed, soaked in insecticide. The mosquitoes that carry malaria hunt mostly at night, so a net is a wall placed exactly where the transaction happens, at exactly the hour it happens. Hundreds of millions of them have gone out, and the malaria death rate has roughly halved since the year 2000. And then in 2021, something arrived that had been promised for 100 years. The first malaria vaccine was approved, and a cheaper, more effective second one followed 2 years later. After thousands of years of losing, we can finally protect the child before the bite. There are stranger weapons as well. There is a bacterium called Wolbachia, which once it is living inside a mosquito, makes it very hard for dengue virus to survive in there at all. So you release those mosquitoes, they breed with the wild ones, and the bacterium spreads through the population by itself, for free, forever. In a trial in Indonesia, dengue cases in the treated neighborhoods fell by around 3/4. Notice what that actually is. Not poison, not extermination. We infected the animal with something that makes it harmless, and then let it hand that down to its own children. And then there's the option that makes everybody uncomfortable. We can now edit mosquitoes directly. One approach releases modified males, which do not bite anybody, and whose daughters simply never survive to adulthood, so the local population quietly folds in on itself. The more radical version is called a gene drive, which forces an edited gene to be inherited by almost every single offspring instead of half of them. One release of that could, in principle, sweep through an entire species across an entire continent. We have the tool. It exists. It works. It is sitting on a shelf right now. What we do not have is any agreement about whether to use it, because that would be a deliberate extinction. Chosen by us on purpose of an animal that has been on this planet for 100 million years. Ask an ecologist what happens if the malaria-carrying species disappear and you get an uncomfortable, honest answer. Probably not very much, because other insects would move into the gap, but nobody can actually promise you that. Plenty of birds, bats, fish, and frogs eat mosquitoes. Very few of them eat only mosquitoes. And on the other side of those scales is a child dying roughly every minute. That is the decision, and nobody wants to be the person who makes it. So this is your debate, and it is a real one, not a made-up one. Team Pull the Trigger says we wiped out smallpox and nobody has ever mourned it. We should end this too, and every year we spend hesitating has a body count attached to it. Team Too Risky says we have never deliberately deleted an animal from the planet. We are historically terrible at predicting what ecosystems will do, and this is the one decision you cannot take back once it starts spreading. Pick a side and defend it below. Now, in the interest of honesty, what is second on the list? After the mosquito, the animal that kills the most human beings is us. People kill somewhere around 400,000 of each other every year, which puts our own species comfortably in second place, ahead of everything with claws or teeth. And that is before you start counting wars. So the top two killers of human beings on this planet are an insect that has no idea we exist, and the only animal on the entire list that knows exactly what it is doing. And the rest of the ranking is just as wrong as your instincts are. Snakes kill somewhere between 80 and 140,000 people a year, overwhelmingly farmers who are nowhere near a hospital. Rabies, carried mostly by dogs, takes about 60,000. Freshwater snails, which sounds like a joke until you look it up, carry a parasite that kills tens of thousands more. Then the assassin bug, the tsetse fly, the tapeworm, the roundworm. Look at that list properly. Almost nothing on it has teeth that would frighten you. The animals that genuinely kill us are, with barely an exception, too small to fight, which completes a pattern this channel keeps walking into. Last video we found that the more intelligent a predator is, the safer you are around it, because being eaten is usually a misunderstanding and a clever animal does not need to guess what you are. This video is the same rule from underneath. The more visible and frightening an animal is, the less likely it is to be the thing that kills you, because we can see it coming, and we have had 2 million years of practice with things we can see. Every genuine killer we have left is either too small to notice, or something we invited into the house ourselves. And that is a flaw in us, not in the world. Your fear system was assembled by ancestors who needed to survive the next 10 minutes, so it is beautifully tuned to teeth, claws, big shapes, and sudden movement. Nothing in it was ever calibrated for an insect that weighs less than a grain of rice, and nothing in it can even perceive a parasite, so we build our nightmares around sharks, which kill about 10 of us a year, and we swat the thing that kills 600,000 without even looking down at our own arm. And here's the twist I cannot get out of my head. The mosquito is not our enemy. She is not hunting you, she has no plan for you, and she does not benefit in any way from the thing that actually kills you. She is a mother collecting protein, carrying a passenger she never agreed to carry, a passenger that is quietly rewriting her behavior and yours so that it can get back into somebody else's bloodstream. The deadliest animal on Earth is itself a victim of something smaller. We have spent a century at war with the courier and calling it the killer. And she is so small. She lives 2 to 4 weeks. She flies maybe a kilometer or two in her entire life and usually dies close to the puddle she hatched in. She has no idea that you have a name or a family, or that the last thing she did before you flattened her against the wall may have ended your life. Everything this animal has done to human history was done in fragments of a life smaller than a raindrop, repeated a few trillion times. But if there is one fact to carry out of this video, make it this one. A child under 5 dies of malaria almost every single minute, and virtually every one of those deaths is preventable with things that already exist and already work. A net, a test that takes 15 minutes, a 3-day course of tablets that costs less than a cup of coffee. This is not an unsolved mystery of science. Out of everything on that list of killers, this is the most beatable one we have, and the reason it is still killing has far less to do with the insect than with where the child happened to be born. So the next time one of them lands on your arm at 2 in the morning and you go through the whole ritual of hunting it around the bedroom in the dark, hold this thought for a second. That insect belongs to the most successful lineage that has ever operated against our species, and she has absolutely no idea. She is not trying to kill you. Something else is using her, and it has been using us for as long as there have been us. Tell me your team, pull the trigger or too risky, and hit like and subscribe if you want the rest of this series. Because next time we go back to the one thing that pulled us out of all of this. Every animal on Earth runs away from it. We are the only species that walks towards it, sits down beside it, and sleeps. Why is every animal afraid of fire? I will see you there.